Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes, that you find some inspiration along the way. This is a little bit of a different episode today. It is one that I have been hinting at, promising on my Instagram as of late. Today's episode is just focusing on the test knits that I did for designer Lindsay Fowler for her Salt and Timber collection. This book has been a long dream in the making, and I feel so special to have been part of this process. I have been testing patterns for Lindsay for a few years now, and when she was talking about this idea that she had, I just loved the story behind it, the memories in it, and just the design and feel of this collection of patterns. So I was so excited to be working on it with her and an incredible group of testers. It is all knitting patterns, but has accessories and garments in it. And I tested 5 of the 15 patterns in the book. So these patterns I tested throughout the year of 2021. It is right now the middle of September year 2022. So for some of them I may have worked on nearly 2 years ago. And yeah, I will do my very best to try to recall some of the information. I did pull out my project notebook from 2021, and I do take usually pretty detailed notes. So hopefully that can jog my memory and I can tell you all about them. So what else did I want to say about it? I think we'll just get going. The publishing company is it Lina Publishing? And it is a beautiful book. It's got a little bit of texture to it. It's a good size. I'm not sure what the dimensions are, but it's a size that I feel like fits in like a tote bag. And the hardcover, it is hardcover, but I feel like it still lays pretty well on a surface without me having to like press down too hard. To give you an idea there. I feel like some hardcover books, the binding is so, I don't know if it's tight or what, but it doesn't stay open, but this one does stay open. And yeah, the pages are kind of a matte finish. Oh, it's got that new book smell that I just love. The photography in here is so dreamy, it's woodsy, it's coastal. It's got these elements of light and dark that I really like in photography, and the play with color and depth of field and texture. Those are all things that I really love. Here's a beautiful page that shows a waterfall, and then on this side you've got some, I think, like ferns, and it showcases one of her hat patterns in here. And yeah, I forgot to mention, like, I guess the subheading maybe, I don't know, part of the title, I don't know what you call it. I think it's subheading. So it's Salt and Timber and then knits from the northern coast. So that is where a lot of her inspiration comes from, the Pacific northwestern coast. So in my mug today here, I have iced coffee. So I did have hot coffee, and then it became lukewarm coffee, and then I had the option of reheating it in the microwave or adding ice cubes to it to make it iced coffee. So that is what I have, iced coffee. Okay, let's get started. Maybe we'll start with the one that I am wearing. Let me find my page for that in my notebook. This is the Lighthouse Keeper pullover. I believe it is it one that I finished like most recently? So I think I finished it like December 2021, so maybe I'll remember it the best. Some of the other ones I finished earlier on in 2021, so it might be a little trickier. But let me also find that in this book and show you what her sample looks like. I know she knit a few of them. let's see here. Okay, I'm going to show you the sample image of it. Here it is on the screen. Hers is in this beautiful, like, pearly white with this beautiful halo, and there is more subtlety and color in it if you look at it in person, which I've not seen, but it's what I hear from how she explains it. But her inspiration for this is like a fisherman style pullover, and she wanted a little bit of texture to it, a bit of a halo to it, and it is knit in a worsted weight base, and then you add in a lace weight mohair or Surrey alpaca. So what I did is I knit the size 6, and this one has 14 sizes. So it's very size inclusive. It has child sizes up to, let me see, a 66-inch body circumference. There is no shaping, and it is just meant to be more of like a sweatshirt style pullover. So I knit size 6, and that is for a finished circumference of 36 inches. I don't know if there's a recommended ease in here. Oh, it says 2 to 4 inches. And so with the 36-inch finished circumference, that gives me 4 inches of positive ease. I did size down in needles because well, to get gauge, but usually I don't have to change my needle size with Lindsay's patterns. Our gauge, I feel like our tension is usually the same, but I think my worsted weight might have been a heavier weight yarn than the one she used, and so in order to get gauge I had to size down in needles, which did mean I think my fabric is a little denser, which I remember my hands getting a little bit tired working on it because it was so dense, but I think if you used like a heavier DK or light worsted plus your lace weight, that might not happen. Also, my lace weight was a little heavier, so I had a slightly heavier like worsted weight, right, and then a slightly heavier lace weight, and that combined then going down in needle size made it a denser fabric. Hopefully I explained that okay. But otherwise the gauge is 17 stitches for 4 inches, so I feel like you have a pretty big gauge and a lot of room to play. So I used Malabrigo Rio in Frank Ochre, and I have 0 amount of that yarn left to show you. So it's like a golden tonal yarn, and I was playing yarn chicken, or as I like to call it, calculated yarn management, to begin with, because I don't remember how many skeins I had to start. I think 4, but my 4th one, I had used a little bit of it in a hat project, and I believe the pattern for my size calls for 5 skeins of worsted. So yeah, so I was already playing yarn chicken, and then my lace weight is a discontinued yarn, and it's by Knit Picks. It's the Alpaca Bloom in golden yellow, and that's a 91% super fine alpaca plus 9% nylon, and the Malabrigo Rios is 100% superwash merino. So I'm gonna get up a little bit closer so you can maybe see how beautiful this fabric turned out, and I don't know if the lighting will show you any of the halo at all, but you get these beautiful textured sections on here that don't have the lace weight held, so you let that worsted weight yarn shine on its own. And for this, I had the Malabrigo yarn for quite some time, and I just felt like the yellow wasn't warm enough for me to want to wear it in an all-over sweater. But then I had this lace weight that I bought later to go with the Malabrigo, which I'd always planned on it, but I just hadn't decided on a pattern yet. And so I thought that would warm it right up because it was a more caramel-y color, and I just love how this color turned out. And I feel like the parts where it's just the worsted weight stands out really nicely in a way that I like, and it isn't too much of it, and it still stands out though, so that you still see it. So I really, really like that. I think that you have a lot of options for it if you want to do like a speckled yarn, or you could do that speckling or variation in your lace weight and then do a tonal or solid for your worsted weight, or flip that around. There's so many ways to play with color, and I think you can just do what works best for you. For me, I also like this folded neckband. Now mine is a little bit shallower just due to how I read the pattern. I feel like I I misread part of it. So I think I could have knit it maybe another inch longer before folding so it would be thicker. But again, I was also playing yarn chicken, so if I did that, then something else would have had to be shortened in here. So mine is definitely a cropped length. I think the full one would have like another one of these repeat sections here. And I definitely wanted my sleeves to be full length. I didn't want that to be shortened at all. So I definitely wanted that, and I didn't mind the body cropped. There are no short rows in this, so I feel like it is more comfortably worn as a layering piece or definitely with high-waisted pants. I have this currently over a sleeveless linen dress, and so even if the back might rise up slightly just because there's no short rows, it doesn't bother me because nothing is going to be like airy back there. There's not like, I don't know how you would explain it, an air pocket or something like that. But this is super cozy and really wearable, and I just love it. Let's go on to the agate beach hat next. I have found the page here. Here is her sample of it. It is knit in subtle contrast or low contrast, and the inspiration for this one is agate hunting on the Oregon coast. Agates are beautiful stones that have these rings of color around them, and the texture was really fun to knit on this one. There are so many different color combinations you could do. You can use mini skeins, you can use leftovers. All the yarns that I used in mine, I had used in a previous project. And I knit the size 3, which is an adult small. And it is knit in fingering weight yarn. I used, let's see, I used a US 2 needle as called for in the pattern, as well as a US 4. So that is a 2.75 millimeter and a 3.5 millimeter needle. I knit the size 3 for an adult small, and there are 5 sizes total. And it is pretty stretchy, and the texture is really nice. This was a new to me like texture combo, and I really like how the crown looks. Check that star out. It is so pretty. There is quite a bit of ribbing in the beginning, and that's for a nice folded brim. I feel like ribbing on hats in the beginning always feel like they take forever, especially since they're meant to stretch out. So then once you stretch it, how much you've knit also kind of shrinks up, and you're thinking, I thought I knit 4 inches, but it's really only 3, or whatever it may be. But it is always worth it, because once folded up, not only does it look nice, but you have an extra layer of warmth over the ears, which is really nice. So this hat I knit for my husband. It fits me as well, but he likes his hat more snug. He doesn't like them slouchy at all. And the nice thing about the folded up part is you can wear it so it doesn't come as low on your forehead by just folding it up higher. But if you want it down closer to your neck, the back side can be not as folded up. Now this one I knit in Sweet Georgia's Tough Love sock base, and that is 425 yards for 115 grams. The colorways I used are birch in this like beigey taupey color, and then basil, which is this spring green color, and then Deep Cove is this deep teal color. And I wanted high contrast, but still have the colors really go well together, and I thought this went really nicely. I would probably stay away from like a highly speckled or super variegated yarn, just because the texture I feel like will get lost, and so much of it is very small amounts of texture, like, you know, like a stitch each for changing things up, and I feel like if there's a lot of variegation or a lot of speckling, that gets lost. Now, if that's the look you are going for, by all means go for it. I feel like personally, if I'm going to put the effort into making a certain stitch pattern or a certain texture, I want that to pop. I'm gonna share with you 2 of our other samples here. I guess it's one other one here. She used like a creamy color, a brown, and like a rusty red, and that pops really nicely too. And the amounts that I used, let's see here. For the birch color, I used about 43 grams. And then for the other two, I used less than 15 grams. And again, this was for the size 3. So I think you could definitely make use of some of those mini skeins you might have or other leftover yarn. Next up, we have the Vespertine socks. These socks come in 4 sizes. They're adult sizes, and I knit the size 1, and that is for a finished circumference of, I think, 7 inches, which would give me an inch of negative ease. And it is a 2-color textured sock pattern. I'm going to get this on a blocker here so that the pattern is more easy to see. Let's see, maybe we'll just do one because there's no reason to hold up 2 of them. So I used remaining yarn from another project for my contrast color. This beautiful olivey brown is from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers called Tests of Time. It is a 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon. And then my main color, I actually don't know the colorway name, but it's a Tolomatan yarn, and I believe it's 100% superwash blue-faced Leicester. It is a beautiful, soft, gray taupe color with autumnal speckles that have like olive and rust, but very subtly. Very subtle speckling. So I knit these ones, I feel like I did these ones on magic loop instead of 9-inch circulars. And sometimes when I'm doing textured patterning, I like doing it on magic loop. I don't know, just personal preference sometimes. I don't actually remember, I didn't write that down, but I feel like that's what I did. The 2 needle sizes you use on this are US 1, which is 2.25 millimeter, and a US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter. And the pattern, I believe, is written for 9-inch, but it says you can, 9-inch circulars, but you can easily transfer that to magic loop or double pointed needles. And then for the toe, I use magic loop. And what else? Amount of yarn I used? I think I used 25-ish grams of my contrast color and then about 45 grams of my main color. And it was a very fun textured pattern to knit, and it is very comfortable to wear. The heel is like a slip stitch heel flap and gusset. And you could make it longer or shorter, I suppose, if you wanted to. Just do extra repeats of this textured pattern. I just knit it to pattern for this. Okay, next pair of socks. Let's see. Let's do the marine layer socks. I'm gonna take the other one off the blocker and put this one on the blocker. Okay, this one's also another one that you can play a lot with color or just make it all solid or tonal. I'm gonna try to find the page here in the book. Marine layer, let's see here. I know that Lindsay has been busy shipping out a lot of the pre-orders, and there may be another pre-order coming up, but don't take my word for it. You should check out Lindsay's website and her Instagram at Larkspur Knits for details on that, and I will link to all of that information in the description box below this video. Sometimes you have to click on show more. I will also link to my project pages on Ravelry in the description box below this video. So if you are curious on some of the details that I talked about today, they should be there as well. So Lindsay knit hers in this very soft pink color. And I knit mine in pink as well. I did not use the same yarns she used, but I also knit mine in pink. And there are 4 sizes for this. I knit the size 1 again. And here's mine. So you have this fuzzy cuff and leg, and then a very simple stockinette for the rest of it. And I believe it was my first time doing a stockinette heel flap. There's also this delightful detail along the back. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see, maybe on a not sock blocker you can see it. Because there's this, I don't know if you call it a faux seam, but there's this little bit coming down the back of the leg that continues running actually into that heel flap. I always find that really fun, like a detail that runs continuously. Oh, I forgot to mention, in this sweater, it has that too. Let me stand up. So there's this detail here along the bottom of the sleeve that runs all the way continuous into the armpit here and down the side of the body before it gets into the hem. I always find those details kind of fun. So back to the marine layer socks. I used for my main color Mondim non-superwash 100% Portuguese wool in Dusty Rose. I think the color is like 110. And at a very tight gauge, I think that this non-superwash should hold up okay. I actually haven't worn these a ton. I've definitely not worn them, well, actually I don't remember if I've worn them out in boots or mostly at home. But I feel like with this denser gauge, they should hold up okay, even being non-superwash without any nylon because it's at a denser gauge. And then my fuzzy part here, I knit in the same alpaca bloom that is discontinued from Knit Picks, but this one is coral shell, and it's so nice and fuzzy. Now because I used this kind of heavier lace weight, it is definitely very dense, and that part can be hard on your hands, but I feel like if you use mohair that isn't as dense as the Surrey, then it won't be as super dense there. Both are super nice and really fuzzy and cozy, but definitely something I've noticed. Mohair is lighter weight than Surrey, and so even though they're both classified as lace weight, the floof factor is different. I ended up using about 62 grams of my main color and then 13 grams of my contrast. And this one can be really fun to have one solid and then one variegator, or one speckled and one solid, to kind of play around with how this leg and cuff part looks compared to the rest of the foot. All of these patterns have a hashtag on Instagram as well that you can follow to see the other ones that testers have knit, as well as what other people so far have started knitting in this book. Last one is the Breathwater socks. Now these might have been the first ones that I tested, actually, like in all of the tests. And this is a pair of DK weight socks. Oh, these are so nice and cozy. I just love a good pair of DK weight socks. Not only can you just use DK weight yarn, there's also the option of holding fingering weight double. And I really like that option because I feel like sometimes we see like a single 100 gram skein of fingering weight yarn and we're thinking, oh, that's so pretty, I love it, I don't know what I'm going to use with it yet, but I really want it. So you get that skein and then it sits there and then you don't always use it. But if you cake it up and either separate in 2 cakes and then hold one from each, or pull one from the middle and one from the outside, or however way you want to do it, you can make DK weight socks, and it is so delightful. Now, this is my pair. Let's see here. I'm going to show you Lindsay's. Here it is. So pretty. Okay, so 4 sizes. I knit size 1 again. These are knit on US 3s or 3.25 millimeter, and you can do it all in one color, like her sample is that I just showed you, or you can knit it in 2 colors. Now, based on the yardage, I knew that I was not going to have enough if I just used the 1 skein and I knit it to just her like length and everything. But I had DK weight yarn that was 75/25 superwash merino nylon remaining from another project, actually another sock that I tested for Lindsay earlier. And so I wanted to use that. And that is this beautiful plummy purple that I used for the cuff. And that is dyed by Gwen of Bella Filato Studio in her colorway Mulberry. And then I used, I think 22 grams total for 2 cuffs, which was perfect. And then the main fabric, the main yarn that I used here, is Earl Grey Fiber Co. dyed by Heather. It's her Darjeeling sock base, which is a 75-25 super wash merino nylon, and this colorway is flannel. And I love this color. It's this purple toned gray, and the speckling is like maroon and rust and brown, and held double. It's just so, it's squishy, right? Because there's this beautiful texture as well on it. Now, I would say that these are slightly more loose fitting, and so they can kind of be like scrunched down if you want. And I've mostly, I think, worn these at home, not so much. I don't remember if I wore these out in boots. I don't know. I also feel like in 2021 we weren't out as much. So yeah, I don't know. I can't remember right now. I think I have worn them in boots because I remember thinking these cuffs sticking out looked really cute. Anyway, what to tell you? Oh, it was my first time doing a tubular cast on successfully. I can't remember what tutorial I had followed, but it clicked for me and I was able to do it, and that was really exciting. It was with a crochet hook, and then I feel like my stitches didn't twist as much because in the past I tried it and I thought, oh, what's the fuss? This is not working, and I'm not sure I will be looking that close on an edging a cuff anyway, and so if it doesn't make that big of a difference to me, I'm not doing it. But because this was a test and it was on a smaller area, I thought, okay, this is my time to give it a go again and just see if it's gonna work out, and it worked out, and it's so pretty. And I mean, on a smaller circumference, I do think it's worth it to me. On a really big one, I'm not sure I have the patience or desire to do it all. It's really nice, right? She does say how to do it in her pattern. I don't think there's like a full-on tutorial, but she has it listed out. It doesn't just say, you know, do a tubular cast on. It says this is how you should do the tubular cast on for this pattern. And yeah, I think it turned out really nicely. I think it's really beautiful. I don't think there's anything else that I want to say. I think that is everything. I have plans to knit more from here. I really want to do the firewood cap. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. Here it is, a neutral version of it. It's basically a ribbed worsted weight hat with a little bit of texture. So I want to knit some of those. The nice thing is that these patterns have thoughtful details, but not to the point where I feel overwhelmed. I'm someone that, you know, enjoys stockinette in the round or garter knit flat, and oftentimes I don't want to be thinking too hard to do it. Now, I know everybody is different. Some people really like the challenge, and I do think there is still, you know, a little bit of challenge in here for those that want a little more thought. I mean, these mitts here, you could knit either just ribbed all around, or you can do that little bit of patterning on there. And then there's also this cardigan that's on the front. So lots of options for different people. Check out your local yarn shop to see if maybe they are carrying this book. I know she is having the book stocked worldwide. And if you have any questions, I would direct you to Lindsay, because I'm sure she can try to answer them for you better than I can. But yeah, I loved having this opportunity to test these patterns for her, and I look forward to seeing what other people are knitting from this book. So that's it for now. Take care. Bye. Look on the other one. I don't even have it woven. It's just sticking out. Doesn't bother me.